Crazy Cool families, welcome to a new series about bedtime.
Oh, is bedtime, it's the worst and the best time of the day.
It's such an important time though. So many things can happen at bedtime, and we're going to give you some, in this series, we're going to give you some strategies, some ways to think about bedtime.
Well, and some ways to connect with your kids, because it's the last thing they see before they go into 6, 8, 10, 12 hours of not hanging out with you.
So we're going to be answering 4 key questions in this series. So we want you to jump in, watch all 4 videos. If you're on number 3, go back to number 1 and all that. So jump in and learn how to be a crazy cool family, how to be crazy cool parents at bedtime. Do if my child has a hard time going to sleep? I'll bet we don't have any parents that have that problem.
We had one. Michael was our one that had a really hard time, like calming down, going to sleep. And now we have a grandchild, Sebastian, that's the same way. He just has a hard time. Like, I'll lay down to take a nap with him, and he's flipping and flopping and moving all over the bed, and he was like standing up and falling backwards, falling backwards.
I even think about, like, we've had a few kids have trouble taking naps.
Right. And I remember having a friend who would bang his head on this pillow. Like, what is wrong with you? And it's just how he would calm himself down. It's how he would get that extra energy out.
Yeah. I remember I had a friend growing up who rocked himself.
Yeah.
Like, just, exactly. I mean, he would just sit there in bed, right before he went to bed at night, he would just rock himself.
Oh, I used to like do this. Like, there's this, just do this right here because it would help me to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a lot of things that you can do to help your child, just to understand that it's difficult for them. And if you or your spouse, like my dad had a hard time sleeping, and so I get that. I understand that. I watched my mom tell us to be quiet all the time, so dad was sleeping. And so I admired and respected sleep, if you will.
And kids are different. I mean, we've had kids, like our second daughter, Madeline, can go to sleep in 3 seconds.
Anywhere, on a plane, train, anywhere.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's like a gift.
It is a gift.
But we've had other kids that have issues, like Michael, as she was saying. So what do you do? What are some things we've done, or we've heard things done to help our kids go to sleep?
Yeah, and so just to understand the why, what's going on, and then to just meet them where they are, not to be mad at them, but just know, okay, this is something that they have, and then equip and empower them to be a successful go-to-sleeper, like the soothing, like we talked about.
Let me jump on that just a minute. Man, anger at bedtime is so damaging.
Yes.
Because it's not only damaging to helping them go to sleep. I mean, I think it actually sometimes creates little tracks in their head to where they dread bedtime because they're always going to get in trouble about it. But it also is damaging. I mean, think about it. They're going to sleep thinking mom or dad is mad at them.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, that's not any good. I mean, Jesus even says, Paul says in Ephesians, don't let the sun go down on your anger, because we want them to go to bed with peaceful thoughts.
Yes.
And if they feel like you're angry with them, and it happens. I've been there, done that. Sleep, your child not going to sleep, super frustrating.
It's the end of the day and you're exhausted and all you want to do is go to sleep. I kept telling Sebastian, sleep is good. We love sleep.
Yeah, so we understand how super, and we've been through it with 7 kids in various forms. We get it, but anger is going to be damaging, especially at night. So avoid that.
So just know that, just imagine this, that the reason your child's having a hard time going to sleep is because they're wound up. They've got a lot of energy in them. And if you add the energy of anger to the equation, then it just escalates it. It doesn't help. The whole goal is to unwind them, to get them to calm down.
And they're usually going to bed earlier than everybody else. And there's this FOMO.
And in the summer, the sun is still up.
Yeah. I mean, there really is, for a lot of kids at various ages, this FOMO, this fear of missing out. They loved it. I mean, you got to think about it. They're not like us and ready to go to bed and the day's done and we're finished.
Even with
they're ready to go, they love their day.
Right, and they love to live. They're wired to live, and we're ready to close the day out and open a new one. Yeah. But even us, I think about when we get in bed at night, like we do 1,000 different things before we get in bed. Then we get in bed and we read a book, or we scroll through social media, or we watch a show. We still do something to wind down to get to sleep. So if you think about it, you've got the day's day's activity, and then you've got sleep. Well, there's a little gap in there that needs to be filled to help transition from the day to the sleep. And so some of those things could be listening to I don't think they do tapes anymore, do they? I think those are old, but like a CD. Do they do CDs anymore?
Wow.
I mean, podcast,
How about an iPad?
a story. Yeah, listen to a story, audio, not so much visual. I would recommend pulling the technology off in late evening, not having them visually, because that does stimulate the brain at a level that makes it hard to wind down. Another thing,
we did a lot of reading books.
Yes.
And we would sit down and it would be super calm, and we might go through, one book or as many as 3 books, depending on how long they were.
Well,
maybe
and how
a
old
Bible
the child
story,
is. If it's a small child, you can go through several books. If it's an older child, then get a chapter book and read a chapter and help them be calm. And if they can read, have them read a little bit too, because that actually is taxing
And one of the
and
things
exhausting.
and like for example, I would also sometimes we would make up stories together, and we
Turtle
backed
without
up.
shell.
So basically, we allowed. One of the things we did when our kids were little is we made bedtime into kind of a planned event. So we made time for it. So if I wanted the kids to be in bed at 9, I didn't start at 8:55.
Right.
I started at 8:30.
That's
good.
good.
Because and even the routine of hey, let's get our jammies on. Hey, let's brush our teeth. Let's do these things that are preparing to go to bed without the technology, as she's saying. Now you're starting the winding down process. You've allowed time to where now you set this plan. And I know you can't do it every time you come home late from ball games and things like that, but especially with little kids, man, you can just make some plans for some time, and it'll really relieve a lot of your stress.
Yeah, and so just along with that, if you don't have the capacity to sit in there and read the stories with them, then you can have them pick out a stack of stories, and they can be independent in winding themselves down, which is the goal. Ultimately, you can look at all of these books, and then you can go to sleep. Another thing we've done is we've put the glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. And so when you turn the light out, then they can lay there and look at the stars to give them something to do while they're transitioning from activity to sleep. And then what is the most valuable thing you can do is you can teach your child to deep breathe. They taught Sebastian at 2 years old to deep breathe. Take a breath, Sebastian.
Oh, to deep breathe.
Deep breathe, exactly like this.
At first I thought you were saying deep breathe. And I was like, how do you deep breathe for 2-year-olds?
So one of the ways you do is just to teach your children how to breathe deeply. I think so many times throughout the day we're holding our breath. And so we go to lay down and we're still holding our breath, and it keeps us wound up. And so to teach your child, okay, let's take 10 deep breaths and take 5 breaths while mommy's in the room. And then when I leave, I want you to take 5 more breaths. So teach them that. That brushes I don't know scientifically everything that it does. I just know it rushes oxygen to their brain, and it does help them to relax. And along with that, a super practical thing to do too is to have them think about things they're grateful for. So as you're breathing, think about 10 things that you're just loved, that you're so grateful for. Your puppy, your teddy bear, your daddy. Think about those things, because here's the deal. What happens with our kids is that their brains are running 100 miles an hour. They don't know what to do with the chaos in their brain. And so if we can direct them at that bedtime, think about the things that you are thankful for. Think about the things you're grateful for. Then that also helps their brain kind of wind down a little bit.
I know from many bedtimes I did such a flip. Instead of me being angry, go to bed, or naps or anything, I can remember just being so frustrated that my 3-year-old daughter would not take a nap, and or laying in there and just being frustrated. But I remember with Molly, our oldest, just rubbing her back. It took about and then you do the little, okay, can I escape? And then she wakes up or whatever, but over time I had to train her. Hey, I'm gonna rub your back for just a minute. Hey, I'm good night, and I would leave. But just whatever those tricks are, instead of getting angry, wow, what a difference! What a difference! So that bedtimes, and we really did, over time, bedtime became a pleasurable event.
It takes a flip in your brain, moms, because I know you're exhausted. But if you do look at that, just understand that you're sending them into 8 to 12 hours of independent alone time. How do you want to send them into that?
Yeah.
You want to bless them into that. You want to pray them into that. You want to support them as they go into that.
That's kind of maybe a wrap up, is just to make sure every child needs to be prayed with, before they go to bed. As a, not again, if you miss it once or whatever, but I mean, make a habit of, hey, even if it's a 15-second prayer. Lord, thank you for all that you've given us this day. Help Madeline to have a great night's sleep. In Jesus' name, amen. That's it. Finish well. Even if you've been angry, and that's the last thing I'm going to say is, even if you've been angry, you can say, you know what, man, I'm so sorry. Lord, forgive me for being a little frustrated with the bedtime process tonight. Just pray again that Madeline or Macy or whoever it is would have a great night's sleep. You can always finish well, right?
Yep.
And so we're going to finish with that. How to help your child go to bed at night or in naps. Hope this gives you some things to flip your thinking on that so that you can have a better experience with that with all your kids.